Hello, hello, it's Marshall. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. It is June 15th, Monday, and doing a Let's Talk Synths episode with my pals, the Synth Lizards. We've got Aaron Russell of Impurfekt and Mr. Cow Food of Mr. Cow Food. How you guys doing?
That's right. Good.
Doing good.
So real quick, since it's been a little while since I've had you guys on the channel, Mr. Cow Food, what's been going on, man? You pick up any new gear? I see you got your shiny modular back there. Ooh.
Yeah. No new modules for the modular. I think I've put a cap on that rabbit hole for the moment. But I picked up a DrumBrute Impact, kind of old news stuff. And but for the new news, I did pick up a Chase Bliss looper pedal.
Say Chase Bliss?
That's the company. Yeah, they make guitar pedals. They're mostly known for that. But let's see a Loop Pop review one of them here and there, and some big names definitely use them. But they're your high-end guitar pedal that can also double as a synth pedal if you know what you're up to.
So how's that MPC working out for you? You digging that thing?
Yeah, it's good stuff. They just released an update for it, so it can now actually do MIDI.
What? It can do MIDI before?
Not very well. Well, it could, but not polyphonic MIDI. In other words, you couldn't have multiple. I don't know exactly what the deal was, but having multiple devices connected and playing at this with one sequence, they've basically flushed out all the MIDI bugs.
Okay.
And so it's a tighter sync. It's a tighter everything when it comes to plugging in external gear and making that your master.
So you can actually run a whole set of gear finally from it.
Right.
Seems weird that would be not working at launch on a device like that since...
Well, for 2 years, yeah. I mean, it's been a while. The same OS is on the MPC Live, which came out, I think we talked about this, 2018, was it? No. 2016? I forget.
Wow, has it been that long?
One of those two. It's been a while.
Wow.
So they've finally gotten around to sorting out the idea of, hey, maybe the MPC, a touchscreen OS, should actually work like an MPC that we used to make. So,
awesome.
yeah.
Well, cool.
Yay!
Glad to have you back on the show, Cow Food. Let's talk to Aaron real quick. What's up, Aaron?
I am chilling with the Synth Lizards.
That's right.
I've been keeping busy, doing lots of videos, doing a couple live streams, exploring that brave new world. I don't even remember what the gear moves around a little bit in here, so I can't remember what changes have happened since the last time.
Oh, I know. I know one change.
The big one is probably the from an MPC to a Deluge.
Yes, the Deluge.
And Prophet 12 rack unit. I think that's the other big one.
Oh, when did you pick that up?
I exchanged the SE1X for the Prophet 12 rack.
Oh, you had an SE1X.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. How was that?
I was disappointed in it for a few reasons. The primary reason was it didn't sound as huge and fat as a Boomstar, which is what I was expecting because it's advertised as having the same lineage and guts as a Boomstar, so that's a Studio Electronics. The
right.
Boomstar is like their flagship mono synth that has gotten probably the most exposure, second to the SEO2 of anything they've done in the last 5 years. Right. Anyway, the SE1X is like a rack-mounted Boomstar with two filter types built in, a Moog and a SEM. Anyway, it just didn't sound as big and as fat, and the architecture is a little cumbersome. Like they've got a separate knob for pulse width for each oscillator, but they don't have a mix knob for each oscillator. You have to go into a pretty archaic LCD menu and hunt around for a while to find how to change the mix. So you can't adjust the mix on the fly, really.
Wow.
But you can adjust the pulse width on the fly if you want.
Which seems kind of like an oversight.
Backwards.
Yeah.
But all that said, if I hadn't spent what it costs, I wouldn't have minded. But given its price tag, I just wasn't willing to commit that amount of funds to it. And I literally, it's a 1-to-1 cost swap between that and the Prophet 12 rack. And I've been pretty happy with the Prophet 12 rack so far.
Awesome.
I want to spend more quality time with it, but the time I've spent, I've been pretty happy. I mean, it sounds very similar to the Mofo, even though it's digital oscillators.
Is that analog filters on that, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's hybrid.
It was between this and the Peak, and I've had the Peak before, and the only thing that I'm not crazy about on the Peak is the filter. Just the character of the filter on the Peak isn't. I would wish it was a little smoother and darker. I mean, it's a good synth, but I listen to demos of the Prophet 12 every now and then. I'm like, maybe I should give that one a whirl because I really like those Curtis filters, and the Prophet 12 can definitely get more raw and dirty and scratchy sounding. It all has to do with the character of the Curtis filter, I think.
So why not the Prophet 6?
I don't know if I can handle having just one LFO on a poly. I'm kind of spoiled by I usually have a lot of LFOs, and I've gone back and forth a lot too. I mean, the Prophet 6, it's one of those bucket list synths. But I thought, well, I'll just get the Prophet 12 and see if that, takes good care of me.
So the last one would obviously be the Rev 2. Well, why the Prophet 12 over the Rev 2?
The Mofo is like half of a Prophet 8, and I haven't found, as far as I can tell, the Prophet 8 and the Rev 2, the Prophet 8 is a little rougher, a little less civilized, and I actually like that it's a little less civilized, and so the Mofo is half of a Prophet 8, but the Mofo has a way that you can drive the filter, and it makes it sound thicker and warmer, and you can't do that with either the 08 or the Rev 2. I think the Rev 2 just have on the back end of the signal chain, there's a distortion knob, something like that. Anyway, so and I mean, there's a little bit of overlap because I have a Mofo and I have a Prophet 12, but
okay.
I've got a little more Dave Smith in here than I probably need, but so far it's going well. I can't complain.
That's good. You survived the cow food interrogation. The synth
I'll bring it on. I'd rather talk to cow food than the voice in my head.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. So Aaron has been doing live streams on his channel, and it's I'll put a link in the description to Aaron's Impurfekt channel. It's called the Synth Hour. And what day of the week are you doing those, or is it just kind of whenever you kind of?
So the plan that I've settled into is every first and third Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific.
Perfect. So
I like that, and that the majority of my audience can check that out based on the time zone.
And it's good to have a schedule, something that I should probably learn to do myself.
I'm definitely a creature of habit, so I'm always on everything's on a schedule. I brush my teeth on a schedule.
Like 52 times. What was that movie with Will Ferrell where he was like brushing his teeth each?
Or what about Bob? Does he do that in What About Bob too? I can't remember.
What About Bob? I haven't seen that in a long time.
Back when movies were good.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we've got, I guess, real quick for me, I haven't picked up anything new. Pandemic, of course, slowing down delivery on things that I've already ordered. Poly Tracker should be here any day. It has not shipped yet, although Sweetwater did bill me for it.
Somebody got one. Wagyu got one.
Yeah, Wagyu got one.
I think he's in Switzerland.
Okay. They seem to be having an easier time getting things over our friends in Europe and in the UK.
I think the company is in Europe. That's Polyend, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Polyend is they're European. I know that.
Okay, and that's probably why, because a lot of this gear is made overseas anyway. But yeah, still waiting on the Korg ARP 2600 and the Polyend Tracker and the Osmos and the Behringer TD3. And I think I would probably have a silver one had I just stuck with that, but I decided to get a black one and a yellow one, and nothing yet, so I don't know. So eventually I'll have some new gear in here, hopefully sometime before the end of the year. And
it's the pandemic nothing burger.
Exactly. So yeah, but we do have some exciting synth news, which is very cool, because I was a little concerned that we wouldn't have a lot of things going on this year, given the situation. But Waldorf, this originally kind of like leaked, and then Waldorf was like, okay, here it is. So this is the Waldorf, what is this thing called? Iridium. And kind of interesting because it's basically from what I can tell, a desktop version of the Quantum, sat in a Kyra style chassis. They say it's rack mountable, but to my knowledge, there's no rack mount kits for Kyra. So maybe that means we'll get something like that for Kyra, because it looks like it's very similar, if not this exact same.
Does your Kyra have screw holes on the sides? I can't see screw holes on the sides of that.
No, but
Iridium.
they specifically mention it's rack mountable. I believe in the description. In the overview.
Is that a mock-up or is that the final design?
I believe that's the final design. This is like available to buy right now. Like you can go to a retailer and buy it.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah.
What?
So
Better be unobtonium. I mean.
Yeah. Well, and you may have to wait 2 years before you actually get it if you buy it now.
Right. Well, how long did I wait for the Quantum when I ordered that? Like 11 months?
Yeah, or the STVC, that was I think a 2.5 year wait.
2 years.
I thought they had abandoned. I thought they had abandoned the STVC at one point.
Yeah, it's like they must have been rewriting the firmware or something on
like,
that guy.
That just went into a black hole of nothing. Like didn't hear anything about it. But this makes a lot of sense to me to release a desktop rack mount version of the Quantum.
Oh yeah.
Some of the improvements over the original. Over the Quantum itself, 16 voice polyphony versus 8 on the Quantum.
Oh, wow.
It is still compatible with Quantum Engine, so you can transfer patches between the two synths. Same characteristics, with the wavetable, VA waveforms, particle synthesis, resonator, and the kernels, which is the new feature added in version 2 OS. So I think the main difference, obviously besides the form factor, and you have these buttons over here, like the little pads now, is the increased polyphony. The filters, they're all digital filters. I don't think this has analog filters. So
that's the difference, because I thought the Quantum did have something analog in the signal chain.
It has 2 analog filters and 1 digital formant is what it's called, but it's it's a digital filter, and you can route those filters however you like. And honestly, I've heard people kind of talk bad about the Quantum analog filters, but I think they sound fine. I don't know. I like it, but
do you know what kind of filters are on the Quantum? Like, what do they call them? Or is it just a unique creation for the Quantum specifically?
I don't know for sure. I don't know.
Because I like the filter on the Pulse 2 that I have.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're based on. Calfood, do you happen to know? It just says 2 analog low-pass filters per voice in 24 or 12 dB configuration using innovative link modes. So I don't know.
No, I don't offhand.
So maybe...
Although if you turn the resonance up and the volume drops, it could be either Curtis or ladder.
So that's something that maybe the chat room could fill us in on, because that is a good question.
I'm just wondering how much would somebody who likes the sound of the Quantum miss having those analog filters if they got the Iridium. Because from what you said, it sounds like the Iridium is 100% digital.
Digital, yeah. It's not a hybrid, from what I can tell.
So that's interesting, because if you can share patches, they would definitely sound different, unless
Absolutely.
somehow they tried to model the analog filters.
Well, that's the other thing is like how can you go cross between the synths without, like, because the architecture of the Quantum is, and the filter side is different in that regard, because you've got the two analogs and then one digital basically. So I don't understand how that would work. But maybe there's and I full disclosure, I have not really played around with OS 2.0 yet, so maybe they've made some changes with the filters in there too. I don't know. I'd have to look at the release notes possibly. So maybe it works that way. I have no idea. That'd be my only question is, yeah, how would that work? Because the architecture of the Quantum having analog filters would make that seem like an issue.
Does the site say how tall that is?
Oh, does it give dimensions? Let's see.
I'm trying to guess how many U that might be, if it's 6 or 7.
Well, so looking at the Quantum, yeah, it's probably 5, maybe. I don't think it's 6. I think it's maybe 5. It's pretty big if it's the same size as the Quantum. Dimensions in millimeters, which means I don't know without a conversion.
Yeah.
440 millimeters wide by 305 depth by 88 height, including controls.
It's based on the ratio, that's got to be either 6,
19
at minimum
inch,
6U.
Yeah, I think so. I guess 5, 6. It's if it's the same size as the Kyra, but it does say right here 19-inch rack assembly parts available in the near future. MSRP. Nice. 1,960 little funky euros. I think that's a euro, not including taxes. So over here, I heard it was going to be like 2,200, so probably like around the same price as the Kyra.
Yeah, I saw a conversion on Reddit. Somebody said it was like 2,300.
Yeah, pretty good. That's like half the actual Quantum price. So,
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Cal Food?
Are you gonna sell your Quantum?
No.
I'm gonna interrogate both of you.
Are you fucking kidding me? No way.
Buy that. Sell
Why
it.
would
Buy that.
It doesn't have analog filters, no keys. I don't think so.
Analog filters.
I'm keeping the Quantum.
Smelters.
Had this come out. Had this come out before I got a Quantum, maybe I would probably have a hard time deciding. But since I've already got the Quantum, definitely keeping the Quantum.
I guess I would have a hard time deciding, because I've got a Blofeld, which is $500, right? And it for
sounds
me
amazing.
does most of what I want to do. And
yeah.
Exactly, it sounds. That's the whole point. It sounds great. And for a digital synth, that's hard for it to do for me. Period. Any kind of digital. The Peak and the Blofeld are the two that I can say, yeah, they sound pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But so for me, that price point, I'm not sure if it's going to do it for me.
Oh, digital cow. Frozen in cow time. There he is. Now he's back.
Yeah.
Please repeat your last 10 seconds.
Okay, so the Blofeld is going to do it for me. That's just too rich for my blood. But for digital synths, the Peak and the Blofeld are the two that just have that sound that I'm happy with. They really, I mean, the Peak is a hybrid, so I shouldn't really call it entirely digital. But
right.
Blofeld is the digital synth in my arsenal.
But this is a Blofeld Plus, basically.
It better be plus because.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's got a touchscreen on it. That's pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, just the many different types of synthesis on here. In the wavetable section, all the Blofeld wavetables are in here. If it's the same as the Quantum. So I don't know. I've never owned a Blofeld, but for $500, Cow Food's super happy with it. I get it.
Exactly.
No need for an Iridium.
I would say also the Hydrasynth is another one to look at as far as like price wise. And there's always that poly aftertouch. Does it have poly aftertouch? Does it?
Poly aftertouch.
Which is another thing about the Summit, by the way. The Summit keyboard does not have poly aftertouch on the keyboard, but if you plug a poly aftertouch keyboard into the Summit, you can actually utilize it.
Which, what the hell? So they bake in the feature and then don't give you the ability to use it on their actual synth.
Right. Right. It's ridiculous. So you've got two keyboards just to control this huge fucking keyboard for poly aftertouch, if that's your thing.
Oh, I think poly aftertouch is everybody's thing. What do you?
Oh, it should be.
What do you think of the Iridium there, Aaron?
I need to hear more sound demos. I'm wondering if it's going to compete directly with the Kyra. It's kind of how sometimes companies and Behringer has a tendency to do it, is they end up releasing synths that crowd each other in the same market.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does the Iridium have FPGA oscillators? Do you know if it does?
Not that
Marshall?
I know of. Nope.
Okay. Does it have multi-timbrality?
It's dual timbral. Dual timbral.
Okay. Bitimbral, I think they would call that.
Well, they say duo timbral on here, but
yeah.
basically yes, bitimbral.
So it is enough different enough that maybe it would
I mean,
not overlap too much. It sounds like, and I'm guessing they sound quite well. You would know, how similar does the Kyra sound to the Quantum?
they don't sound at all like.
Yeah, I have that impression too. Your Kyra just sounds butter smooth, everything that comes out of it, and the Quantum has more of a generally colder digital tone from what I've heard.
Well, and then, the Kyra is straight up just a very powerful VA with all the multi-timbrality on here and everything, using full FPGA oscillators, and everything's FPGA except for the effects, I believe. So it's a completely different sounding synth. The cool thing is, though, that form factor. The thing that I'm excited about is if they're gonna have rack mount hardware for this.
Yep.
Can I get that for my Kyra? Because I would love to put this in a rack.
I mean, if I end up not getting along with the P12, I might consider one of these two as an alternative.
Yeah.
For the same rack space.
How big is that P12? Is it pretty big?
The P12 is 4U, but it requires an extra 1U above to accommodate cables.
The inputs and outputs. The way this thing is designed, let's look at some pictures. If it's like the Kyra,
I'm guessing it's similar to the Kyra.
Yeah, because
it looks like the chassis is the identical.
Identical, yeah. It looks exactly the same. So, but the I/O is on the back here. So you would need to accommodate probably an extra 1U for that. It may take up 10U. I don't know, but I really lean toward hybrid versus all digital. I found the analog filters, you just can't beat them. Yeah, I think
digital. I haven't met a digital synth that satisfied me the way a hybrid or analog has. So, but I'm surprised to hear that that's all digital. I thought it would have had the same analog filters.
That's what I would have thought too, but it makes sense to accommodate additional voice count and keep the price down.
I'm guessing that's what they did, is say, well, let's go 16 voices, and we can't fit all the bits and bobs in there, so we're gonna have to make them digital.
So to me that kind of gives, if you're into the hybrid filters, analog filters, kind of gives Quantum an edge in that regard.
And did you say they're not the same price though? The Quantum's
considerably more expensive, almost double. I think it's like 4,300 US. So
Quantum's got a lot more hands-on control too.
Yeah, but with the screen, and hopefully with this, the issues that had come out with the Quantum screen. So for those who are unaware, side of the screen on the Quantum, you would try and push one of these little tiny controls, and it just wouldn't take. You'd be smearing your finger all around trying to get it to do its thing, and that's been my experience with mine as well. And I'm not the only one that had that. I understand that the way Waldorf considers whether or not your screen is to run the calibration and see if it will, when writing, if you move your finger around, if the little crosshairs or whatever follow your finger. But the area in which that test is done is right in the middle. It doesn't go clear out to the sides here. So I don't know how they could really say that, but I don't know. I've been able to get along just fine with it, even despite that kind of minor nuisance in the Quantum. But hopefully this screen's a little better than that. So we'll have to see.
Oh, I'll just say one last thing about the Peak. They just updated the firmware on that to allow user waveforms to be added. So
cool.
You can you can import Serum wavetables into your Peak now.
Ooh.
Whatever you want.
Amazing.
Yep.
Cool. Let's move on to the next topic, and this is from Synthtopia. I'll have links to all these articles stuff in the description, guys. If you want to check these out, feel free to visit the description section of the video. While you're down there, go ahead and hit like on the video and subscribe to the channel too, I guess, if you want. But Mr. Suit and Tie Guy, who is the master of STG Sound Labs and head of KnobCon out in Chicago, he released a drum sample pack for the Uno drum, and looks like he designed all these percussion sounds using his massive modular synthesizer that you see there right behind him. So this is pretty cool for anyone who has an Uno drum. I have one. I need to pull it out of the closet. I have it. I have not used it yet. Much like my TR-8S that sat in a box for a year. So yeah, I will hopefully pull that out soon and give these a shot, but just wanted to let that be known. Do either of you guys own an Uno drum? Oh, what happened to Aaron? Aaron, are you there? There you are. Now you're back. We got you back. Did you catch my spiel on the Uno drum sample library from the Suit and Tie Guy?
I did not.
So
sorry about that.
So Aaron, Suit and Tie Guy, he's the owner of STG Sound Labs, and he's the head of KnobCon. Suit and Tie Guy's really cool dude, and he has put out a sample library for the Uno drum, which is IK Multimedia's low-cost 12-voice analog/digital drum machine. And he made all these sounds using his modular, you see here, and that's pretty cool. And I was just asking.
So he sampled his modular and put the samples into the Uno drum machine.
Mm-hmm. So you can go and download the sample pack and then load those into your Uno drum. Into
the Uno's drum machine, not the Uno synth.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a digital oscillators or wavetable oscillators?
So the Uno drum is a 12-voice analog drum synth offering 6 analog drum synth voices and 6 sampled based voices. So of those 6 sampled based, I assume that's where you would load in sample packs like from Mr. Suit and Tie Guy.
Yeah. Do we have a little demo?
No demo on here. Maybe the IK Multimedia site has something. So
I looked. I didn't see any samples.
Okay, so that's the Uno drum. Oh, but that's not that looks like a desktop unit there.
Oh, it's the exact same chassis as the Uno synth, except configured slightly differently to be a drum machine.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought it was modular. I got confused.
Oh yeah, no. This is the Uno synth and the Uno drum share the same
just like the
form factor.
Digitact and the Digitone.
Yes. Or like the Kyra and the Iridium.
Yes.
Yeah, see how it's like all one of these things is just like the other? Or whatever.
It's a Sesame Street.
Yeah. So, but it's a low-cost machine, $209.99. That's pretty good. I bet you these have been out for a little while, so you might even be able to get for probably around $150, I'm guessing, maybe on the used market.
Does that have separate outs?
I don't think so. And I don't,
because I just bought myself a little drum machine, which I wanted to interrogate cow food on his DrumBrute.
Oh yeah, cross
impact
interrogation.
later.
So here we go. So yeah, I don't think it's just got the it's got an input. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so you must be able to sample straight into it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I bought one a long time ago and I haven't played with it yet.
Or you bought one of these in addition to the Unosynth?
Yes, so I bought the Unosynth.
Because I remember your Unosynth episodes.
Yeah, I did several live streams working on a track. That's a track that I will release eventually. But then I can't remember how long it was after that they released the Uno drum, and I picked one of those. I mean, they're so cheap. It's so cheap. I mean, that's half of RD8. Roughly, right? Isn't the RD8 like 400? I don't know. Cow food.
Yeah, it's about there.
What do you think?
I do not have one. I think it's a contender if you're looking at either the DrumBrute Impact or this. And with all those samples, it makes it for a much more versatile drum machine as far as sounds go. But then again, you have the multi-out problem. So
yeah. Well, maybe
it depends on what you want.
Yes.
But it does have its own sound. So at this price point, a used DrumBrute Impact versus a new one of these would be something, or even a used one of these would be something to, like, do the juggle hands with, or just buy both if you're really into it.
Just buy everything. Just buy everything.
Right. Buy it all.
This is gear slots.
Then you'll never have to worry about not having it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the IK Multimedia stuff. The Unosynth, I think, is a really fun and good mono for not a lot of money. And you have the thing that I think puts that synth above other synths in that same price category, I'm talking about Behringer stuff, is it's fully MIDI CC controllable. So for me, in a production environment, working in a DAW, I really need that. So whereas a lot of the Behringer stuff, it's full on digital. There is no, or full on analog. There is no digital controls on the front of their synths. So, just putting that out there.
Is that true for the DeepMind as well?
Nope. The DeepMind is the only synth that I know of that Behringer has released that actually is a synth that it's a full featured polyphonic analog synth.
I'm still scratching
control.
My head because the DeepMind has so many features implemented that they just seem to have forgotten about since then.
Yeah, all these other clones and stuff they've come out. They're literally analog clones.
They're clones.
Yeah, which
really
makes
are.
sense.
Well,
but
sometimes they add an effects section onto it.
Stereo delay on an mono output.
Yeah,
Like on the
it's all the rage.
Like on the Odyssey, right?
Right. Well, yeah, they've been throwing little effects on all of them. Like the Poly D has the chorus and distortion.
Don't get me started on that Poly D. I'll have a freaking brain aneurysm.
But yeah, I mean, they're clones, except now there's a MIDI jack. Whereas before, in fact, when I used to have all the original shit, I'd have to go find a way to either convert MIDI to S-Trig or some other crap to get it to sync to even just clock a an arpeggio or something like that, or I'd have to get a Kenton MIDI retrofit kit and send my synth off to get it, built, soldered in there.
Yeah.
Get a retrofit. So now I don't have to do that. I can just get a freaking Behringer.
That's true, because I guess I should say the MIDI implementation on the Behringer stuff, you do have MIDI for note on, note off, right?
Right. Which is good enough, man. Use your hands. You don't need CCs.
You use your hands.
CCs. Use an LFO. Come on.
Oh man,
They put jacks on there for like LFOs modulation. You can do it.
You got two hands. That's two LFOs right there.
Yeah, but I can't do it at the same time every time. Working on a record, man. Well, I want repeatability while I'm working on stuff.
Got to get his business done.
I gotta get my business, man.
Right. Right.
So Mr. Catfoot, I'm curious to hear. I don't know how long have you had that DrumBrute Impact?
I just got it.
Okay. Have you got into it enough to have some impressions?
Yeah, I've built some quick little patterns, some polyrhythms. So that's the part that I think I like the most about it is the sequencer. You can do poly. You can set step sequence length for each type of drum.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I could have the snare drum be like a 3-step. I can have the kick drum be a 5-step, etc. And the hit on the 5, and then, like, what was I saying? Snares for 3. I'm being ridiculous. I wouldn't do that actually, but it'd probably do something like 7 for hi-hats and 5 for drum. So the drum hits on the 5 instead of the 4, but only it loops in a 5 versus a 7. So you get these rhythms that just aren't your bog standard step sequenced. Shit. It doesn't sound like your typical 4 on the floor. After it has a sort of, it gives it a sort of swing that swing itself doesn't quite give it.
Does it have? Does it have a swing adjustment?
Oh yeah, it is.
Okay.
It has swing. Yeah, definitely.
What about the raw tone of the? I think it's all analog, right?
It is. It is all analog. You'll have to listen to demos on it because it'll do you right or it'll be like, it sounds kind of. Some people call it a woody sound.
Woody.
So whatever that means to that person calling it woody, but it seems to make sense to me.
Well, see,
a little boxy and mid forward in the lower registers.
My biggest problem with the Impact is the snare sounds like shit.
That's what I heard about the Impact too, or the original. I think the original I heard the snare wasn't so good, but on the Impact I thought they had improved it, but I haven't watched enough demos recently.
The only one I've ever heard you use it to any desirable effect is Look Mom No Computer, but I'm sure there's probably other people that have used them that maybe they sound good. I just, the snare drum sounds like shit. I just not going to use it because one of the main reasons for me to buy any drum machine is I want to hear what that snare sounds like. Kicks I can use other stuff for. Hi-hats, the hi-hats sound fine to me on that. But if it doesn't have a good snare, I'm not interested. But
it has 2 snares.
You like them?
It has 2 snares.
Yeah, I knew it had 2.
Well, one kind of gets into the clap territory, or a snappy snare. The other one is just a full snare. Just dialing in the settings to what you like is what you need to actually kind of get your hands on one to decide whether you're going to like the sound or not. Because obviously a lot of the demos just leave the snare on one setting. It's either one you're not going to like or it's one you may like, but
all right.
The best way to find out is just to get your hand on it.
I expect
and listen to the sweeps.
I expect some snare demos from Mr. Calfood on your YouTube channel, sir.
All right.
Make it happen.
I'll just do a snare only demo of the Impact.
Snare only. And it'll be 6 hours of a snare.
Right. Every micro increment.
But before we move off from drum machines, the reason why I was curious to hear about the Impact was because I recently picked up a the division department 01/1V drum synth.
Is that
I didn't even know about it,
is that
but
a
I was looking.
module?
Okay, yeah, it's a little desktop unit. It's about the size of a
What's it called?
Digitact. The division department 01/1 or 01/IV. So it's confusing. It
Slash or dash?
slash.
Slash IV. I'm trying to look one up. Sorry.
Because I was
continue.
trying to find an analog drum machine that didn't have a built-in sequencer because I'd never used. I don't need to use them because I've got a great sequencer already. And the one I was looking at for a long time, for years, was the Vermona, whatever that drum one. I can't remember the name of their drummer. That's this big, huge rack thing. But I saw some demos of this, and it sounded interesting. So I've been getting to know it for the last couple days.
4-channel analog drum synthesizer.
It's a very interesting design.
And it fits in a rack? Your rack?
No, it does not. It's a desktop unit. It's about the size of a Digitact.
Oh.
Those look like they're. Is it 4 oscillators?
It's
4-channel.
4 voices, and each voice is identical.
That's okay.
And
That's what I thought.
Each
So
one
it's
has one oscillator. You can choose between triangle, saw, noise, and then the fourth selection is actually a sampled hi-hat wave or whatever it is.
Oh, here. Let's see.
And I haven't found some really great demos, so I probably will end up doing some demos and putting them up just to make it sound like I would want it to sound. It's like, just like you said, Mr. Cowfood, you know, well, there may be a snare, but it may not be the snare you want to hear.
Right. Is that snare? Well, it's a wave file you're saying, or a sample. Is it something you can like replace with something
It's analog, right?
some other sample?
So as far as I know, there's no, you can't replace anything on there. So it's analog triangle, analog saw, analog noise, and then the fourth slot for each voice is a digital hi-hat sample of, I assume it's just a little waveform or something that repeats.
Yeah, it's probably a sample on a ROM chip.
Yeah. There's very few connections on there. It's got four outs for each voice, one main out, which is mono, and then a MIDI in, MIDI through, and a power jack.
Okay.
But I've been getting it to sound kind of like an 808 so far. It's been fun because I've been just doing samples, drum samples for a couple of years, and I miss having like a TR8 where I can really tweak exactly the sound I want. So I thought, well, let's try something that not hardly anybody else has, then hopefully sounds decent, so I can have some more unique drum sounds, but also, I have a hard time getting a kick. I have to settle for something when I'm looking at samples, but with this I can make my own kick and just have it sound exactly like I want.
Does it? So triangle is it doesn't have a sine wave.
No sine
Or
wave
does
as
it?
far as I know. Which I'm not. It's the website's a little. It took me to get some getting used to figure out what I was looking at on the website.
Yeah, this is like a
Let me look at the box here.
hoity-toity. Like,
Well,
it reminds me.
Definitely, triangle is the wave you want if you're going to go with a kick. So
Yeah, it's triangle, saw, noise, and hi-hat. Yeah, I think my kick is using the triangle, and I actually found I got a pretty decent snare using the triangle. The hardest part about it is the modulation section, and using the modulation section, you can turn just about anything into noise. And it's very interesting because when you sequence that thing, it'll have like certain notes that will sequence one of the voices, whereas the next note will sequence two of the voices just with one note press. And then at the same time, if you go a few octaves up, you can have a 2-octave tuning range, playable tuning range on each voice. So theoretically, I could use it to do like 4-voice a 4-voice polyphony. So it's not limited to being a drum synth. You can also do drones with it. There's a pretty good demo where a guy just does drones
here you
with
go.
it. It sounds great.
Did you see these patch sheets they have on here to make?
I saw that, but so it's very interesting. It's not easy. It's not like full of sweet spots either. I'm having to learn it and find, because there's so many parameters you can adjust. But all 4 are identical.
Yeah, not heard about this anywhere.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was pleasantly surprised. I think I saw it on Perfect Circuit is where I bumped into it. But we'll explore that on my live show a little bit.
On the Synth Hour.
Yeah.
Are you going 2
And it
hours
does
on
have
that now,
multi-outs?
or are you doing just 1 hour?
Between 1 and 2 hours, just depends on engagement and my energy level,
Right.
I guess.
How long you feel like streaming?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see that.
So yeah, I think you'll like the kicks for sure on there, Marshall.
Yeah. Well, if the snare
nice
sounds
and
like
fat.
shit, I'm not gonna like it. Does it have a good snare? Do you like the snare, Aaron?
I've struggled to get. It took me a while to get one that I liked, because you can do straight noise for a snare, gives you a certain snare sound. But I found with the triangle wave, I can get the snare to have a little more of a pop at the beginning. And there's 3 different filter options you can do, and the filters are fairly resonant. So depending on where you put that filter, and whether it's the low pass, the band pass, or the high pass, you can suddenly discover, oh, now it gives me a pop, and then you can tune it. And it's not an easy synth to figure out. A beginner might go a little crazy just because there's so many parameters.
Interesting.
And moving one knob a little bit alters the sound dramatically.
So it's
So
like,
I'm optimistic. I mean, so far I did manage to craft a pretty good drum loop that I'm working on a track right now that has that drum loop in it, and it sounds great, especially after I run it through my rat pedal. So
cool. I can't wait to hear and see that on your channel there. So let's see, 01/IV. So that'd be 4, 014?
yeah, I think it's the 1/4 is what I would guess.
Like 1/4 increments.
I thought I read somewhere why it was named that, but I can't remember. I mean, it's one box, it's 4 voices.
Interesting.
I think it's their first synth they've ever released for that company.
Cool. Well, let's talk about the next thing. This is for all you Korg lovers out there. If you have a synth that has the multi-engine, which would include the Prologue, the Minilogue XD, and the NTS-1, there is a new Supersaw oscillator available that you can snag. Introduced the JP
Boo 1000.
B1000.
B1000.
So, when I kind of went back and forth and maybe grabbing a Prologue at one point, because I think actually because how stable the oscillators are, you can probably get a really nice sounding Supersaw just with the 16 voice anyway. But this is cool. Adds in JP8000 style Supersaw. I've heard the demos. I don't know. I don't think it quite sounds anywhere near as good as a JP8000, but still pretty neat. And,
How does it compare to the, what was that, the $30,000 Supersaw?
Oh, the $15,000 Supersaw.
$15,000.
Yeah. Nothing's got sawtooth that sharp. Just wait till I do like the $50,000 Supersaw. So yeah, I thought this was neat. You guys have any thoughts on this? Do either of you own any of these Korg products? You know, between the Prologue, Minilogue, XD, or
Not currently. I own both of them at one point, the Prologue and the XD.
Did you get to play around with that multi-engine? Did you experiment with that?
All I did with the multi-engine was I had basically they have a oscillator package based on Commodore 64. I can't remember what it was called, but it sounds great. Very vintage, computer chiptune sounding. My only gripe with the multi-engine is you're kind of wandering around blindly in it because the screen doesn't tell you that much. So you just have to kind of cycle the knobs and the buttons to navigate it.
So one question then for you, Aaron. Which one did you have? You had the Minilogue or the Prologue?
I had the Prologue for longer than I had the Minilogue.
Okay, so you had both of them. So, but the Prologue's only got that one LFO, man.
Yeah, that's probably why I don't have it anymore. It's because it only had the one LFO.
Now I don't know about the Minilogue XD. Did it have more than one LFO?
One LFO, and the envelope is fairly limited
On the XD.
Yeah, that was one of the main complaints coming from the Minilogue to the XD that a lot of people had was they reduced the capability of the envelope on the XD, and nobody could really understand why they would have done that.
Yeah, some interesting choices on some of those.
Yeah,
because the thing for me was the Prologue was pretty expensive, and I felt like it didn't really have the features that I would really want at that price point, right? So,
yeah, it's cheaper now.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good buy now.
Well, so did they ever fix the tuning issue? I heard they had issues.
Yeah, the tuning issue was, most of the people that had the tuning issue, it was fixed when they did a firmware update. I've heard a couple cases where not even the firmware update fixed that tuning issue. And it was, as far as I know, exclusive to the 16-voice units.
Okay.
I don't recall hearing anybody with an 8-voice unit having that tuning issue. But generally, it seems to be a player's synth, not so much. I mean, I use it for sound design for about a month, and I really liked it, but I like the Mofo just a little bit more, so I kept the Mofo.
It just seemed to me like the Prologue was kind of a bread and butter type synth, which is
good.
I mean, it's
really wide sweet spot.
Yeah.
If you like the sound, it's really wide sweet spot. I thought it was one of the smoothest, nicest sounding analog polys that I've ever had on my desk, really. I really like the way it sounded. I really like the filter. I just couldn't get past the modulation limitations for, I want to make the big evolving pads, and you just can't do that with it.
Yeah. What do you think, Cow Food? You can go get yourself Prologues. You can get this JP Boo.
I'd have to just get the little card, the board, synth, the little mono guy. If I was going to do it,
just buy a JP8000. They're like $500.
All right.
Does that work in the little NKS box?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is essentially a standalone multi-engine oscillator.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Yeah, that's cool though. I'm glad that people are still putting out stuff for that multi-engine. I thought that was pretty innovative on Korg's part.
There's a lot of options. I mean, you can get a whole variety without paying a dime too.
Yeah, and I know fellow YouTuber Tim Shoebridge has put out his own oscillators for it, which is pretty impressive.
I'm hoping in the future they'll introduce a Korg synth that has more hands-on control for the multi-engine, because to me that was the main barrier to exploring it deeply. Was you're stuck using those little black keys over on the right and going tap 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 to get around in there.
Yeah.
It does have a software interface, right?
It has a SDK, I believe, to develop.
Yeah, I don't know if there
for,
is
but
a librarian or an editor. There
yeah,
might be
I'm not sure.
now. It's been a while since I even looked at them.
Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah, because if you can program that thing with just a graphic interface, that would make it a lot easier.
Well, I think it's more difficult than that. I think it's actual coding, but could be wrong.
Yeah. You know, I know
Yeah,
there's
if
an
you want to make
SDK.
an oscillator for it, that's some pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
But interacting with it could be made easier by various methods.
And that's true of many synths. For shizzle.
True.
Cool. Let's talk about the next thing. What do you guys think about synth that shall not be named needing an AI to help you make patches? You guys hear about this?
What did they call that in Terminator when the computers took over? What was that day called?
Judgment Day.
Judgment Day. So this is a DX7 Judgment Day.
Synth that shall not be named. Judgment Day.
Sentient DX7.
It's gonna kill everyone, I swear. So this
It's going to kill us all because of all the DX7 that we've been bashing on stage for decades.
right. Well, talk to Trent Reznor. I think he smashes one every show, or used to anyway.
Or that one guy that broke one with a hammer on a video that he later deleted.
That would
Right.
that would be this guy. That would be your lovely host here, Marshall. Yes, I've destroyed a DX7 on the channel, and then took the video down because I got berated by a DX7 echo chamber. But anyway, so this is interesting because what it does is it says here the Yamaha DX7 has a total of 155 parameters. The AI uses machine learning model known as a VAE, which I don't know what that means. Sounds pretty ominous. That reduces these 155 parameters down to just 8. And then the AI makes, certain adjustments, whatever, to these 8 parameters that then is able to control all 155 somehow. And it sounds like Skynet, and we're all going to die. So
Yeah, Skynet. That's what I was trying to think of.
but if you need an AI to program your synth, it's not a very good synth. Just saying.
I read that and I couldn't quite understand. So what is the actual mechanics of getting what that describes into a DX7?
So
I assume they don't mail you a Genesis cartridge.
No, of course not.
They make a sysx file.
Sysx, right? And it is able to be. You can use the same patches in DXED, which is a free FM DX kind of clone in software, and then this Rockerlay Synth FM for Android, which I didn't even know about this thing. Why you would want to put that on your phone, I don't know.
I did it.
Don't do it.
It sucks.
Don't.
It sucks.
That's what I'm saying.
So how do you get the sysx into the DX7? Does that have MIDI implementation?
Yeah, DX7's got MIDI.
Okay.
Yep. So you would just
So you have just a little MIDI dumper and hook it up, and
you dump
away you go.
you dump your sysx in over MIDI, and then you're good. And Synth that shall not be named will have new patches.
That will sound better or worse.
Well, so
To me, it sounds like a morphing kind of thing. I guess it's based on someone else's work with the DX7, and it sort of runs some algorithms on those 8.
So yeah,
Those 8 delays, and then
it's been
dumps out
trained. Yeah, the AI's been trained based on certain patches. So I don't know how many patches they use to train the AI with, but that's kind of the basis. And then so the AI has been trained based on certain sounds. And then it says the model generates 99.9% unique voices. So it's highly unlikely that any 2 cartridges created on the site will be the same. So you can,
I'd have to hear this thing.
the Prophet 6 and the OB-Xa have a software that you can buy from this company called Sound Tower that allows you to morph between patches, and it sort of makes what are called children patches by taking the parameters from 2 different patches and then deriving a new patch from.
Doesn't the DeepMind 12 kind of do that? Doesn't it have like a way to?
It might.
I can't remember.
I remember seeing something in the plugin, the editor for it, if I remember right. Could
So
be
that
wrong.
kind of idea has already kind of been around. So I guess they just
but
sort
it's
of made
way
it easier
cooler. It's way cooler.
for the
when-
DX7.
It's way cooler when you say it's artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Just imagine if they had
Well,
that
there you
back in the
go.
80s, bro. You wouldn't have had just
Yeah.
lately bass on everything and the bells from Top Gun. I'm I'm hard on the DX7, but I think it is pretty hilarious that an AI is needed to program it. So
I'd like to hear. Maybe I'll find demos where like, does it spit out usable sounds?
that's the
And
other
how
thing.
likely is it to spit out non-usable sounds?
Well, the biggest thing on the DX7 is there's no freaking control. So what are you gonna do? How are you gonna really? I mean, just like
just knowing the variety of stuff available with the DX7 engine, it's like mind-boggling.
you can already download probably thousands and thousands of patches for free on the internet for it. So I don't know. I think this is dumb.
Is it free or do you pay money?
I think it's free.
Oh, okay. Well, then none of this conversation matters because somebody can just do it, try it out. Give it a
Here we
whirl.
go. Here, let's click the generate a cartridge. We'll just do that right now. So there it goes. It downloaded a virus to my computer. Fuck. Just kidding.
Uh-oh.
There it is. See, opened up in my MIDI OX, and you would just dump this shit in there. So there you go. That's how it works. It's that easy. And
Sweet.
this is a cool.
Is that
one.
your wallpaper? Your wallpaper now?
Yeah. Actually, I do like the way this looks. This is cool, nice and 80s looking.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
It's pretty sweet, except for this right here where it says that. But
Very synth wave.
very synth
Yeah,
wavy.
just make it say BX7.
Okay, moving on. Erica Synths. Syntrx synthesizer in-depth demo by our buddy Loopop, who has quickly become a go-to YouTube channel for gear. I did watch a good chunk of it. Actually, I think I watched the whole thing. This synth I think is pretty cool because it's very 1960s out of like a bomb shelter. I like the big chunky
Fallout
knobs.
Boy.
Yeah.
What is that? Or Pip Boy?
It reminds me in Terminator 3 when they go to that mountain bunker and there's all that old 60s computer equipment in there. It's kind of what this reminds me of. But it's cool. And it's also got some VCS3 kind of styling here with the way the matrix works. Although instead of pins, you use these two knobs here to kind of etch-a-sketch your way into creating connections. Which I think is...
If you turn it upside down and shake it, do you lose the memory?
Yeah, if you shake it, it probably just erases everything. So, did either of you guys have a chance to take a look at this synth at all? The Syntrx?
Yeah, it makes bird sounds.
It makes bird sounds? It's like
That's
a
what that's what it's
jayhawk
good
or
for.
a
It's good for
cockatiel.
It's good for birds. Good for making bird sounds.
Yeah.
It's an EMS synthy sort of clone, from what I gather.
Yeah, it looks like it is a clone of something. I just don't know enough about those really early synths to know what it's a clone of.
Yeah, see,
Yeah, Pink Floyd uses the synthy on some of their works.
Is that like the original Star Trek synthesizer?
ARP is that.
yeah, I was going to say
That's
art
RGB.
probably. Well, that's Star Wars. Do you know the difference?
I do.
I
I'm
do too,
referring to
but
Star
Calfu,
Trek.
Calfu, what's the difference between
Wait.
Star Trek and Star Wars, buddy? Come on, right now.
Well, one's got Trek and one's got wars in it.
Okay.
So that's the difference, right?
Yeah, okay, you fail. You
Yeah.
fail. You failed.
I'm kidding.
Oh,
Oh
boy.
man.
Aaron,
No,
thoughts? You have any thoughts on this?
I haven't seen a video of this. Videos where all you see are hands and a voice sometimes creep me out a little bit, so I don't watch a lot of those.
They're creepy.
But I don't know. There's something about that, but
Talk to the hand.
I haven't heard what it sounds like. I mean, I like the design, and I think it's interesting to go back and kind of hit an area of synthesis that's been ignored. Which this also reminds me of that big giant one that man, who was that? They make the Leipzig Analog Solutions made that huge giant synth.
The Colossus or whatever it was called.
Yeah, the Colossus. I mean, it was just
was that what it was
like
called?
the size of a truck. And that seemed to be following a similar aesthetic as this one.
It's because it's got that. I'm telling you, man, it's got that like '60s, like it's never gonna break ever. You know what I mean? Nice chunky everything.
It looks like it came straight out of the '60s.
I love the
and
way
that
this
interesting modulation grid.
One of the cool things that Lupop demonstrated in his video here was, you see these speaker grills here, right? And you're like, oh my god, stupid speakers, whatever. But he did something where he was able to get the reverb to kind of like loop back on itself using these speakers somehow, and it sounded fucking awesome.
Oh, so you can feedback? It's got a feedback circuit?
So I'm not sure if he just ran like the out into the in, or had a mic hooked up or something. I can't remember. I'd have to watch the video again. But he did something where the reverb just kind of came through the speakers and looped back in on itself into the synth and made this really cool sounding like drone.
Well, the speakers can like generate. I mean, the spring reverb in there is actually a spring. It's a
so is that what it's doing? It's actually doing it physically from the vibration from the speakers into the.
That's my
spring?
guess. Yeah.
Okay,
I guess
that
it's actually
sense.
the spring reverb is being sent out the speakers, and then the speakers sending the sound back to the spring. And then you got a loop.
It's fascinating.
Wow.
I was fascinated by whatever he did there, and I really like how it has this this little needle dial up here. I think that's really cool.
So how much is this thing, and is it mass available?
It's a shit ton.
Yeah, it's a couple grand, I think. Well, this just took me to Lupop's page.
It's almost. I think it's 2,000. I think it's 1,900 or something.
Oh, I just deleted my tab. Okay, I guess we'll just move on to Valhalla DSP. Has a free reverb for you, and it's Supermassive. Because it's called Supermassive. You get it? Did you guys download this? The free Valhalla Supermassive reverb.
No.
What? I insist that you do so immediately after the show.
I'm sure it sounds
Probably
fantastic.
I downloaded it, but I haven't used it yet. But maybe I can play a little bit of this demo on here. Let's see. Can you guys hear that? It's a whole 60-second demo. It's probably going to sound like shit to you guys. Valhalla is known for their very, very nice sounding effects plugins, and they're $50 each, something like that. But this one's free.
It just occurred to me that a reverb demo is more honestly is a more honest portrayal of the reverb than if you had a synth demo running through a reverb.
Yes, I think you've actually mentioned that before, because the reverb's going to really color the sound of the synth.
I mean, I was just, every time I'm doing sound design, if I say, okay, I want to run something through a reverb, it's almost better to start with the reverb on there and then craft the sound, because with the reverb off, it's like 10% of the sound is left. And you turn the reverb on, it's like, boom, the universe is coming out of my speakers.
Right.
But that tells you, it just occurred to me, watching that, it's like, oh yeah, it probably gives you a pretty good idea what the reverb sounds like, because the reverb tends to just totally take over whatever is running through it.
Yep.
Yep. Make an old shoe sound good, as I've heard.
Or a flatulence.
Or flatulence, yeah.
Which, I hear it's pretty easy to make those flatulent sounds with modular synths, right, Calfu?
Yeah. Absolutely. You're getting the king.
That's what I heard people love to do with them. I don't know. I don't have any, so.
When is that art coming anyway?
What, my ARP?
Yes.
26? I don't know, man. I ordered it.
Those are golden flatulence that's going to come out of that bad boy.
Oh, just wait.
Exactly.
Just wait. I'm going to make the best sounding flatulence you've ever heard.
The most expensive sounding farts.
Yeah, I don't know when that's coming, man. Like, it's still sitting there in my, it says in the Sweetwater order, waiting for item to arrive or whatever. So, I don't know. I
call them up.
I don't know if anybody here in the U.S. has gotten them yet, other than Mark Doty. But he got
Yeah, see? You got one.
But he got the one that they used in the Reverb dock. So,
like Korg themselves hand built it
and then gave it to him.
First shipment or something.
And then
kicked it.
Yeah,
shipped it.
It got all smashed in the shipping truck. Poor Mark.
I would say Tanaka put it together, but I think he's working elsewhere now. Or what the guy who designed the
Is
was
he?
that the Minilogue
Didn't
and
he go to
the
Behringer?
Monologue? I don't know.
No, that's a
thought he
different
got
guy.
hired back.
That's a different guy. Yeah. I thought I'd heard he got hired back at Korg too.
Oh, the guy was a genius.
Well, he's
like
basically
that.
the one responsible for the analog revolution we're seeing.
Yeah. He brought Korg back to life. He said, "Stop making these digital synths that aren't selling well enough."
Well, I don't know that the micro Korg is like one of the
The micro Korg. That's the
biggest
the
selling.
gift that keeps on giving. It's like the Nintendo DS of synths.
I don't know how people still buy those. Those were out when I first started getting into this shit like 20 years ago.
It sounds fantastic. Just the interface is
Well, it's
hard to get used to.
It's the same sound engine in the MS-2000, which is a great synth, VA synth, I think. So
Yeah.
makes sense. But what do you guys think about this Arturia, this OB-Xa V? OB-Xa V. Did you guys check this out?
Yeah, a little.
So, from my
Does
understanding,
it sound good?
well, let's listen to it here. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and hit play on this sucker.
They better play Jump, or it's.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I've heard it does not sound anything like an OB-Xa.
I'll try to be kind. That doesn't surprise me. I used before I knew anything about analog synths, I used the V Collection for years.
Yep.
And I really liked the sounds I got out of it. But when I started getting into synths and then hearing the original synths these were based on, I quickly realized the closest aspect is the GUI and not the sound. And then
they do a really good job of making the UI look like the classic, like here.
Yeah.
And then
this one may be closer because I know with the SEM, their SEM plugin, Oberheim, I can't remember what it's called, Oberheim SEMV or whatever. That one sounds pretty darn close, and I've seen side by sides where that one sounds pretty close. But a lot of them, I read a pretty in-depth analysis of it, and somebody was suggesting that they basically have all the same oscillators, and then they have a slightly different filter, and then they just slapped a different name on it. But I'm guessing that was more early on, but I don't know. I'm hoping this one sounds a little more authentic.
I don't know. We're gonna have to give Retro Sound a call. Have them do a side by side.
I mean, it's almost like I don't expect authenticity from these the V Collection, but they do have character.
Yes.
And if you just want a synth that sounds 80s, you can probably get that and be really happy.
But maybe you can't. Again, like, we kind of need side by side.
Yeah.
Because I remember even the OB-6, some comparisons made online didn't kind of sound like as good as the original. I think.
Well, no.
I think
It's not going to.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to, as far as I know. It was just to be a member of the family.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I did finally though upgrade my V Collection to 7. I was on 4. And,
I think I'm on Gosh, I don't know. The numbers go by so fast. When I originally got it, it was 2 or 3. But
They keep adding so many new synths to it. But the only reason why I did it, because I've been using a lot more Roland Cloud actually in terms of plug-in synths. But they had an upgrade offer for $149.99 US, and you got the upgrade to 7 plus you got this OB-Xa V in there, which I think is by
and I think
itself.
they made it so you could scale the UIs. I think that was the big change when I last upgraded.
Okay, what version did you have?
I can't remember. I think it's 4 or 5 that I have.
Okay.
It was maybe 2 years ago is the last time I used any of these.
I used to use the Minilogue V and the Roland Jupiter 8 V all the time.
I did a whole album with their CS80 plugin.
Back in like 2012.
Absolutely loved it, the CS80 plugin, until I heard more comparisons. Like, oh, I guess I should have used this other CS80 plugin that's out there that actually sounds more authentic.
Yeah.
Like, well, I didn't know any better, back in those days.
Well, like it's going to be difficult because I don't know anybody personally that has an OB-Xa. Maybe Synthmania.
I used to have one.
Yeah, but you also used to have a 303, man. You sold it for like $50 and a Coke.
Not quite that cheap.
I'm just teasing you. So yeah, I don't know. I'll play around with some of these. Like really, like I wanted to check out. Well, I had a few years back. I had started working on a Michael Jackson "Beat It" cover, and I used the demo version of the Synclavier V because it has that gong sound that they use in that tune. That was actually reused by Junkie XL in the original Deadpool soundtrack, which is cool. So anyway, I want to finish that cover. So yeah. So anyways, any more thoughts on the Arturia OB-Xa V?
Get it if you like those. If you like the V Suite, you'll probably
and
like
if you want to play Jump, that's the way to go.
Exactly, Jump, or I guess they tried to do some rendition of Prince in there.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Behringer MonoPoly on the way. Thoughts? Cow food.
Sounds good. Then again, I've never actually had or played an original, so I don't know how close it gets, but it sounds good. And so,
do you plan to get one?
Maybe. I'm going to see how things flesh out with it. But
would you buy this instead of a Poly D?
Probably, because there's a lot more sonic potential with it. There's more timbrality with it. I mean, just not.
Plus, this is just
timbre as in timbre.
This looks way cooler than the Poly D. Poly D looks like a cheesy knockoff of a Mini Moog, and this looks pretty cool.
Well, the Poly D kind of has a limitation as far as like how far you can take it sonically. I mean, it does have a certain sweet spot, and that's about as far as you're going to get it, really. That's how I see the Poly D. And it's a great sweet spot. I mean, I love that sound. But that's a lot of money to put down for just that one type of sound. I don't know.
Aaron, what do you think?
I haven't heard a sound out of that thing that doesn't sound amazing. It sounds exactly like I want a synthesizer to sound. And it has me hemming and hawing about how important is patch memory to me in a Poly. And I think that's the clincher.
Well, I think it's paraphonic.
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing of the MonoPoly.
Yeah. It is paraphonic, but at the same time, I would basically use it more as a Poly than as a mono.
Right.
I'd use it for chords and pads.
Mm-hmm.
And it would replace my Mofo if I got one. So that's a tough call.
Ooh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd do that.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I don't
have to
think I could.
replace it.
And I mean, I guess
You
I could also possibly replace my base station with either that or the Parody.
yeah,
But just it's hard to say
maybe.
because the
Maybe.
patch memory makes production so much easier.
And the base station is fully MIDI CC'd, right, for the panel?
Yeah, so I assume. Well, so basically the only thing I automate on most of my synths is just the modulation. I'll route the modulation how I want it, and then modulate, and then automate the modulation with a sequencer. If I'm producing something and not doing it live.
So there's no pricing availability or anything that announced.
I assume it's going to be the same price as the Parody, which I don't remember how much that is. If it's $699,
$699, which seems kind of a lot for a synth that doesn't have digital controls, in my opinion.
Well,
I mean, you could buy a DeepMind 12 for that.
Colored glasses, though.
What's that?
You're viewing that through Behringer colored glasses.
Yep, but it's a Behringer synth.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. You say, well, Behringer makes them cheap, and yeah, I don't know why they didn't have more MIDI CC implementation.
That's the only thing that kills me on these, because this looks amazing, and I'd probably consider getting one had it had MIDI CC.
It's a lot more complicated than what they've been doing. You know, the DeepMind was really complicated.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's got me started scratching my head was when I was looking at this one and the Parody and thinking, why don't they have more implementation? Why not have a patch memory in there? Because you're going to make more complex sounds with these.
Yeah, you say cost, but then you can spend not that much more and get some boutiques.
They could charge $100 more, and I think people would, I don't think it's going to affect sales if they charge a little bit more for these.
No, I mean...
well, they have to have high resolution. I mean, I don't know.
It's a conundrum, right? Because at this point, I think they're getting into the area where they're building these chassis, which are bigger. They look nice.
Yeah, I love that. Love the design of that.
Yeah, I like the way this looks with the MonoPoly scheme on here. The Poly D one I can't stand. It gives my eyes makes my eyes hurt. But this
makes you want to hurt something.
Yeah, makes me want to punch things. But this looks cool. I really like the way this looks. But these materials aren't cheap, and to put all this together, not cheap. So I think that's where a lot of the costs has come in. I don't know about the innards, but without all those digital pots on there, that should greatly reduce the cost. So I mean, does that mean that if this had some form of MIDI CC patch memory, do you think that would push something like this up into the like $800-900 range?
If they want to get it to the resolution where it doesn't cause stepping, I would think, yeah.
Because what's the DeepMind keyboard? Is that 900?
No, well, at one point it was being sold for $699 or $799.
I think that's what it is $699. Because when I originally got a DeepMind, it was $1,000.
We could check. Let's see.
That was, I think, when and I think that's what yours initially cost too, Marshall. When it first came out, I think it was $1,000.
Yeah, I bought mine at full price because I bought it right away for $999.99 or whatever. Let's just take a look. See.
I mean, these two paraphonic synths they put out, they sound so good. I don't think the price is going to be an issue.
$828. So it has gone up since, but I think some of this is tariffs. Probably $30 of that's tariff. So
yeah,
originally it's still cheaper than what I paid out of the gate, and my first one didn't work. I remember being really pissed about that. But yeah, so this is not much more than probably what the MonoPoly is going to be. It's definitely not much more than a Poly D, and it's a full featured.
If either one of this one or the Parody had memory, I would pick one of them up because they just sound amazing.
Yeah, but the usefulness.
I've heard it's pretty easy to program. It's not going to be that hard to dial in the sound you want.
Yeah, because there's no menu. It's kind of like what you see, what you get. And I do appreciate that about these. And so even if it didn't have patch memories, I would still I still want MIDI CC on the front panel. So give me that, and I'll buy it.
That's kind of what I'm on the edge about, though, because Cowfood makes a point. They're not that complex. It's like I'm okay with a mono synth that I'll like, okay, I can hear a sound and then kind of dial it in if I know it well. Because the issue is with my synths that don't have patch memory, I basically set them and I leave them there until I'm done with the track. And then I say, okay, am I really done with the track? Am I really done with the track? Maybe wait a day and then say, okay, I'm really done with it. And then I'll do something else with it because, you know, I mean, it's hard to get the nuance of the patch back just from using my ears. So I have 3 synths that have patch memory at a minimum. So I can use these 3 synths to make a track that I can go back and replace parts if I need to later. Because I'm trying to do the game music stuff where it's actually sold on a store and I may need to update something, or somebody may want more that's similar, or they may want revisions.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to do something a little professional.
The thing that irks me about it is, well, I understand it's legitimately, you know, they're trying to clone basically the MonoPoly, the Mini Moog, all these things. But it's not the freaking 70s anymore. We have all these computers, and the way we work in studios is pretty reliant on that. And to your point, where if you're doing any kind of professional work, you know, and you have a client that comes back to you, maybe it's even 6 months later, and they're like, hey, by the way, can you kind of spruce up this this tune that you made for us? Well, probably by then you've completely changed your settings here, and yeah, good luck. You could probably get close, but yeah, I don't know. So I know that what Ty Unwin does is he will on probably synths like this where there is no memory, he will sample each key of the sound so that later on, if he gets a request to make a change, he can just go back and use the sample bank that he created.
Wow, that's intense.
It's brilliant. But at the same time, it's freaking 2020. These are brand new synths. Let's give them a little more than just note on, note off, please.
It's like, why not make a Mark II instead of a Mark 1.25?
Right.
Because this is like the Mark 125. You know, why not go a little further away? I mean, you rebuilt the thing from scratch.
Cow food.
Okay, then cost. That's all I can say.
That's
fine.
fine.
You can do that, but
you know,
all right.
It's already
for some of us.
It's over $500. I think that puts it in the realm of more premium synth territory. It's not your entry level, you know, Uno synth or boutique or, you know, any of the other recent module clones like the Cat or the other ones. So I just feel like they kind of missed a little bit of an opportunity.
I guess I come from I mean, since I've used these things in production long ago. I mean, the original stuff, but going back to that, but this to me, it's like, well, I'm just happy it has MIDI now. This is brilliant. So I don't care about the patch memory necessarily. I mean, I'm going to dial in the sound for the project that I'm working on, and then I'm cool with it. I just go. That's it. I'm stuck with it, and I'm happy, and I'm going to live with it. So if I want to redo it, maybe a different way, then I'll make another version of the song, and I'll dial in the dials and lay out the track with. I mean, if I have the MIDI data on, for instance, and I'm recording the MonoPoly, and I might dial in one setting and say, okay, I love the way this sounds. I'm just going to go ahead and hit record this. But I've got the MIDI data, so I can just for the note. I'll just say note data. Forget CCs.
Right.
And then I can just do another take if I'm not happy with the way it sounds. It's a little bit different. Part of the track I'm working on don't quite gel with the original take, and then I'll redial those until it sounds right, and then I'll dump another recording of that, and then that'll be that. I'm I don't need to go back and say I need those exact settings. I mean, for me, I can, if I'm working on a track to that level, I can pretty much dial in everything from the panel, just from memory, and get the sound that I was basically at, and then tweak it to where I need it to be. So for me, it's not a big deal.
Are you saying?
In fact, I find it more interesting and more fun.
And that's a good argument
Yeah.
for not worrying about patch memory. Is once you really know a synth and really know synthesis, theoretically you can do what he just said. You're like, what did I do here? Oh yeah.
Exactly.
And then
you'll get a sound maybe slightly off, but I mean, does it matter if it sounds better? Because that's the whole idea in the first place.
The person listening may not know the difference. You may be the only one that knows the difference because you did the original and you're like, it's not quite the same, but it's close enough, but actually it's a little better. So we're good.
In fact, I'll dial it usually every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, I'm just like, yep, patch memory, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't
This
know.
isn't helping
That's
me
just
this
my
time,
take on it.
It's easy to
Sorry.
go back and forth. No, it's all good. It's
No,
perspectives.
it's totally cool, and people are this is gonna sell like hotcakes, I'm sure. But
But the other argument too is again resolution. You're gonna have resolution on all those knobs that are gonna be CCable. And if you got stepping, people are gonna complain. Well, it doesn't sound as good as the original because it has a steppiness to it. So,
right.
well, you wanted it, but now you don't want it.
Yeah, but do it right.
Do it right.
Don't half-ass it like the SCO2.
Well, let's hope they do decide to do that with future.
But you're
stuff.
right. That may be part of the reason that may be another factor in Behringer's decision making in this to not add those.
Yeah, they may have had to
features.
commit to a really high resolution to have it sound the way they wanted it to.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna have people complaining.
People complain anyway. We're complaining.
We're complaining about all the things that the synth doesn't do. Right. This is like the most cliche thing ever.
Right, exactly. We're complaining about what it doesn't have, and if it had it.
One fucking LFO on the synth?
What a piece of shit. No, yeah. For me, I think it's cool. I think it sounds good. I think it looks beautiful, but not going to adorn my synth stack, unfortunately. What I would really like is for Korg to make one and make it right. And
a proper MonoPoly Mark II.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
That would get me jonesing pretty good. And I was hoping this, when Behringer started going on this crusade of, we're going to clone this, we're going to clone that. They came out with the DeepMind 12, which, awesome keyboard. But then everything else that they've come out with are these little stupid modules, and they're just not exactly what I had hoped they'd be doing. If that makes sense. So I was hoping they would come in and do. I don't know how to explain it, because it's like they're doing what we asked them, but they're putting these a lot of them in a form factor, which makes sense for the modern day in a way, because Eurorack's still a big deal. But man, this is why I put the money out for the Mini Moog, why I'm putting the money out for the ARP, the Korg ARP 2600. They are legitimate reissues of the original instrument, and they're like the synth infinity stones, right? They're the classics that we would never be able to buy on the used market, not to mention the the risk of repair bills and whatever else from buying a 40-year-old synth. So this is, and while Behringer's doing this, but they're doing it in these little boxes, and it's kind of like a little bit disappointing. If that makes sense.
Now, the DeepMind's definitely the pinnacle of what they've done. And it's interesting because that was the first synth they did.
Yep.
And it just, and it still has surpassed everything they've done since then.
And
so it's clear that they have the know-how and the manufacturing chain to produce something like the DeepMind.
Yeah.
So the question is, and the Neutron, I love the Neutron, and there's the Crave. I haven't used the Crave. So they're doing some original stuff. But it seems like the bulk of their resources are dedicated to things more like what we're seeing here, rather than exploring something new, which, the know-how they're getting from rebuilding all these things they should be able to make just something absolutely amazing.
Well, I'm hoping
with the amount of intellectual learning and they're making these and they're making them really well. They feel solid, well made, sound fantastic. So if they said, okay, let's make a DeepMind Mark II or something else that just blows the doors off of it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the UBXA, right? The Behringer yeah. I'm hoping that's a full-featured synth and not something that they try and jam into something like this, because then I'm not going to buy it. Not going to buy it.
That had patch memory originally anyway, right?
On the original? I don't know. I think so. Do you know, Cow Food?
I don't know how old it was.
I don't know.
I think it had like 12 or something. I don't remember exactly.
Even if it didn't.
I think it did.
That's definitely one of the synths that, this should be their, when they come out with that, it should be their new flagship. It should surpass the DeepMind 12.
Or the BS80.
The what?
I'm waiting for the BS80.
Oh, yeah. The CS80 clone. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, makes sense. Cornering the lower end entry. I shouldn't say lower end. It's more entry level.
Now, there's a patch memory that's the CS80. You're familiar with the patch memory on that thing?
The little things under the flap.
A mini version of the front panel in a flap. Yeah.
Right.
It's like
because you have your synth elves do that for you while you're doing something else in the studio.
Yeah, synth inception or something. So you notice here, their monopoly is one word, where the original is mono/poly. So I wonder if that means Korg could still come out with a mono/poly. I don't know. Be interesting.
Awesome.
Or they could just call it the Poly 2 or
the Super Poly.
Korg, they could just call it something else.
Yeah. So, okay, I think we beat that one up pretty good. Let's talk about the Moog Subharmonicon synthesizer. This is kind of in the same family as the DFAM, the Mother 32. Am I missing anything else in that product line? Or are those the only two plus now this?
That's it as far as I'm aware. This was the secret one that was floating around for a couple of years based on one of their shows.
Yeah, it was originally built at Moog Fest. Yeah, in 2018. It was a Moog Fest limited edition. Those were silver.
Yeah.
So they've kind of matched the design aesthetic to the production models of the Mother 32 and the DFAM. DFAM's black, right? Cow Food?
Yep.
So, for me personally, I've not had a lot of interest in the Mother 32, the DFAM, and I'm kind of feeling the same way about the Subharmonicon. What do you guys think, Aaron?
I haven't even listened to it yet. It's not something that I'm looking for, so I haven't explored it. If it had 2 VCOs, 2 envelopes, basically I don't need a synth that has a built-in sequencer, and this is devoting a lot of space to that sequencer from what I can tell.
Yeah.
So if it had a more complex synthesis architecture and less or no sequencer, I would definitely be interested. So I'm not really the market for this thing. Which I'm wondering, how would you sequence how would you sequence it externally? Would you have to use CV to sequence it?
I don't know if this has MIDI in on it. That's a good question.
I didn't see a MIDI in on there.
Oh, it does say MIDI integration, so yeah, it definitely has. It's probably got at least an input.
Yeah, it's a PRS MIDI on the patch panel.
Oh, is that what it is?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I heard it was really popular, and they did how it is now with YouTube is the big guy comes out with a new synth, and the date, the calendar flips, and suddenly 12 different channels are showing you this great new thing, and everybody's talking about it for 3 days, and then suddenly it disappears again.
On to the next.
So I just kind of keep my head low while all that goes on.
You're not into synth propaganda?
I'm too good at spotting that stuff.
Yeah. What do you think, Calfood? Is this something? Because I know you really enjoyed the DFAM.
Yeah, I have the Mother 32 and the DFAM. So for me,
you're gonna complete the collection.
Got to complete the stack.
Yeah, man. It's
the
like
triumvirate.
Pokemon.
The Triforce.
Gotta catch them all.
Yes.
It's kind of.
But yeah, it's 6 oscillators. It's it's 2 main VCOs, and each of those 2 VCOs have 2 sub oscillators, which are tuned to the subharmonics of the main oscillators. And then the sequencers, there's 2 of which are polyrhythmic. So it's not your typical step sequencer. It's something a lot more complex once you dial in those simple sequencers. And you can turn on different aspects of the oscillators for the sequencers as well. It's basically a melody machine, as Mylar melodies has mentioned.
The tones that I've heard out of it are quite unique and unconventional, and I believe that's a testament to the way they've designed the oscillator section with these sub oscillators to be tuned, like you said. So explain that again. So there's the 2 oscillators, and each oscillator has 2 sub oscillators. Can be tuned to subdivisions of the master VCO frequencies, which is interesting.
Right.
So you could have one oscillator, and then one sub is a 5th down, and the other sub is a 7th down, all on the one oscillator.
But it's subdivision, so I don't know if that means that you could really. Can you? Maybe you can tune it to 5ths or something. I don't know.
You can change the subdivisions as well. There's a whole section of how you want those subdivisions to be. And there's equal temperament and just temperament in 2 different versions of both of those.
Okay.
For the sub oscillators. So, and then there's also a way to turn off quantization completely, so you can just have it sound however you want.
Get into Wacky Wednesday land.
Right. Exactly. You can tune it however you wish. I believe you can turn off the subdivisions of the sub oscillators, thus making it basically a 6 oscillator
mono synth.
Badass Moog.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's paraphonic. You can do duophony. So, I believe. I better double check that. But yeah, yeah. So
sounds really
3
capable.
oscillators per voice.
It sounds very unique, which I like. It's an innovative approach to analog synthesis, and something that I don't know of anything else that behaves that way.
No.
So I think that's
It's
pretty
unique.
cool.
And it works well with the other 2, the DFAM and the Mother 32.
Right.
It'd just be like a perfect puzzle piece for those 2.
Yeah.
Has Nick Back done a stack demo of that and the DFAM and the Mother 32 yet?
Not sure.
I'd love to see that.
He doesn't do
Anderton's does that.
He doesn't do a lot of Moog reviews.
I've seen him do a stack with the Mother 32. And I think his review for the Mother 32, he had 2 or 3 of them.
Did he do? It's been a long time because the Mother 32 has been out for a while.
Yeah, it may have been a while ago, but
I remember going to a center with guitars in it to see what they had in there in Colorado, and seeing the Mother 32 and thinking, it's like $500. Maybe I should buy this thing. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, it's just not. It doesn't. I don't think I'd really use it like I should. If that makes sense. So I never bought one, but that was a long time ago. So yeah.
Yeah. Now we got the Crave. We don't need a Mother 32.
Yeah, and I had pre-ordered a Crave initially because I wanted to get 303 type sounds out of it, and then they released the TD03 before I got my Crave, so I canceled my Crave order.
You lost the Crave for the Crave?
Lost the
Crave canceller.
Yeah, I'm a Crave canceller.
Right. But
So-
no, for me, I'm kind of lusting after this thing. I think it's one of those things that'll grow on you. And with the other Moog, well, creating the triumvirate, as I say, it will basically. I think it'll work really, really well.
This is
I
pretty.
think you could make a whole
complete
track
unit.
with that stack, and it would just sound
Right.
amazing, especially with effects.
Yeah,
Right, exactly. Well, that's one other
get
thing
that
about this.
supermassive reverb
mind-blowing.
from Valhalla.
It's a dry sounding. It doesn't have any kind of effects, so it's just raw, dry stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you need to add effects to it in order for it to come to life.
But I do.
Could this
that's-
sequence the Mother 32, or could the Mother 32 sequence this?
Yeah, Mother 32 can sequence that. I believe you can probably go the other way around too.
Probably got trig in and out, right?
Yeah.
This
You can go either way. Yeah, you can go either way with it.
Or you could have like a Beat Set Pro or something.
It's an ambidextrous synth.
Sure.
This is
Although
interesting.
it does have its own sequencer. Like I said, the rhythmic sequencer, which gives it a whole different flavor. Which
Yeah.
I find this interesting.
when you
Says
Go ahead.
the subharmonica is designed to let users work with subharmonics and polyrhythms, just like Cal Food said. To design the subharmonica, harmonicon, Moog drew inspiration from. Oops, and I just clicked on the wrong button. Drew inspiration from theories on music composition that arose in experimental circles during the 1930s and 1940s. I find that fascinating. I think that's really cool. Sorry.
I highly recommend you listen to some demos of it. Get a feel for it.
I've heard some, but I think what needs to happen is Calfood. We need to see on your YouTube channel the full brigade, the full Moog.
Yeah, that's gonna be a little while. We've got some
Make it happen, man.
to take care of. I'll make it. I'll put a donation page up for
There you go. Donate to Calfood.
Subharmonicon.
He needs grass.
I need a Subharmonicon.
Actually, cow food is grass.
Right.
So you
Exactly.
need water and fertilizer.
Yeah.
We get the aerator over and
I'm in a
Cow
polite-
food turns grass into fertilizer, though, so I think he's good there.
yeah. Well, that's cool. I think it's neat. I think it's an innovative thing, an innovative approach. I really applaud that. Probably not something I'll get, but we'll let Mr. Cowfood get one and tell us all about it.
I'm taking the get off my lawn approach with that synth.
You don't like it? You gonna spray people in the face with a hose?
Just it's
Yeah.
just not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But I'm perfectly fine with it existing and doing its thing.
You mean it's okay for it to be here and you're not gonna jump off a
No
bridge or
patch
something?
memory.
Yeah.
No patch memory.
There's no patch memory?
No.
That seems pretty interesting.
I'm okay. I've got a couple synths. I've got my modular and I've got my Neutron. There's no patch memory there, but I don't use them for like the production stuff. It's more for the live stuff, and
For
or I'll record various sounds out of them and put those into something. But
yeah, sampling.
there's a different approach.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Happy for Moog. Hopefully it does good for him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen. That's why I haven't been terribly interested, because I'm seeing videos all over about it.
So let's talk about real quick this here, where we have Anderton's Synths and Keys and Tech. I don't know if they changed the name of their channel. That was just Anderton Synths or Anderton.
I think they've
keyboards
been dividing
or
it,
something.
because it used to be Anderton's, and then I think they had two of them. One was like guitars, and the other was him with his synths. So I think they have a third one now, or they renamed it.
Jack is hilarious, and I love watching him mess around.
I watch a lot of his videos.
The reason why I pulled this up is because it was brought to my attention that this gentleman here is wearing a Moog shirt that is backwards and it spells Goom.
Is that the Maltese Falcon?
No, that's Mylar Melody.
Oh, I don't know my my YouTube celebrities.
Well, he's more into the Eurorack stuff. He's
So,
a big Eurorack reviewer / jammer.
Jammer. So that's why Subharmonicon's on his thing. I haven't watched this. I was just told, let's talk about Goom. So there's Goom.
Are you thinking there's a conspiracy involved with it saying Goom?
Possibly. I don't know.
Let's explore this, Marshall. What does your intuition tell you?
I think we need to get Alex Jones on the line and see if he can.
God!
See if he can dig up some conspiracy papers.
I'm not even going to try and do an Alex Jones impression, but that would be hilarious.
It's turning the fucking synths gay. How's that?
I heard actually that he has a 303.
He has a bunch of synths. I've seen there's a video on YouTube of him in a recording studio of his with just all kinds of synths in there. So I think he's actually, I think I've talked about this before on the channel. I think he's kind of a synth dude.
I'm trying to imagine the kind of music he would make. Would it be like bluegrass with synths, or would it be like Ministry with synths?
I don't know. It'd be cool to like find a Alex Jones SoundCloud page and just see what he makes.
And what would his pseudonym be that he would make this stuff under?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Would it be like a
globalist?
What is that? Something about eating his neighbors or something?
It'd probably be like globalist something.
So something that if we say it, your channel will be demonetized.
Right, exactly. Anyway, that's funny.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Well, I think that's pretty much all I had on the docket here, gentlemen. Anything else you want to say or speak about? Silence.
I'm good.
Silence surrounds us in solitude.
Well, I was going to mention a couple things about the Deluge versus the MPC, and it's good to have cow food on because I used the MPC for a while, and I was having some issue with mine, and I couldn't resolve it. Updated the firmware. So what's the version of firmware that you're on right now, cow food?
2.8.
2.8. Yeah, so I had 2.72 or whatever it was when I got mine. I put 2.8 on it to hopefully resolve some of the issues, and it did introduce the additional MIDI features, which I didn't actually. They didn't really do anything for me because as far as MIDI went, I was able to sequence 6 synthesizers simultaneously with no issue previously, but it did look like there was more complex MIDI routing made available.
Yeah.
But it also made it so my notes on the piano roll wouldn't trigger anymore when I moved them, and my pad selector buttons on the upper left, one of them stopped working after I upgraded to 2.8. So I rolled back, and upgraded to 2.8. Didn't fix the issue I was having with audio not retaining on a project. So that kind of put me over the edge because the touchscreen, I never really got along as well with it as I'd like. So I ended up flipping it for a Deluge, and I've been real happy with the Deluge. I got to work on my pronunciation. They're definitely different animals, that's for sure. But for sequencing solely, that's my main thing that I use the Deluge for, is sequencing MIDI. I feel like it's far better suited for that than the MPC, just because the way the interface is. I'm sequencing at least twice as fast with it, but sample chopping, you can do it on this, but it's not nearly as robust as on the MPC. I mean, you've got the screen and all that. So I'm not sure what all to say about it. You know, it's a good option for somebody that's looking at an MPC. I would just say take a look at the Deluge also, depending on what you want to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all about workflow. And
what do you primarily do on your MPC, Cow Food?
Mostly just beat work.
Okay.
Making them
I don't
beats.
use it. I don't use it for full-on samples per se yet, but I do plan to do that.
Aaron, or Cow Food, if you know, what's the price differential between an MPC 1 and a Deluge? Not a couple $100 maybe?
Well, I got mine for 600 new, but they go for I think $700.
Yeah, I thought $699.
Yeah, and I got mine was on sale at the center with guitars in it.
The center with
Deluge is $899.
Okay, so yeah, it's a little more expensive.
And I think that's the same price that it's been since 2017 when it came out.
Cool.
Right. But the MPC Live 2, which has speakers built into it.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Everybody was begging for that.
Was that $1,200? Is that what it's
Yeah, I think it's back up to the original price of the MPC 1, because the MPC 1 wasn't always $1,000. Right? It was $1,100 or $1,200 originally.
The MPC
you mean the MPC Live?
I'm sorry, the MPC Live. Or the MPC Live version 1.
Yeah, because as I say, I thought
it's confusing.
I thought the 1 was cheaper. Yeah. Okay.
But one of the other things that I couldn't figure out, trying to do more variation in the beats that I would make on the MPC Live, I could never get the LFO to allow me to use the LFO to vary the sounds of the drums, because I guess it's not free running. It resets every time you hit a note. But there is a way to do a round robin on there, but you have to process. So you'd have one sample, duplicate it 4 times, make it sound a little different those 4 times. And then if you have a kit that's got 4 different sounds, well, you end up with 16 different samples, and it round robins between 4 kicks, 4 snares, whatever, to get a kit that sounds a little more interesting. But after using a Digitact, and it felt like a lot more work than I was doing on the Digitact. So I didn't do a lot of beat work when I had an MPC, but the Deluge is very similar to a Digitact as far as the complexity and modulation you can do for drum sequencing. And I've really enjoyed having that ease and flexibility again.
So you got rid of your Digitact, is that?
Yeah, so I went Digitact to MPC, but when I went to the MPC, I also got rid of my DAW.
Oh, okay.
And then my initial plan was to get a Deluge, but I heard about the MPCs because I hadn't heard about them because they weren't marketing them to the synth crowd at all until the MPC 1 came out.
Right.
And I was like, ooh, that's interesting. I want to try that out. So that's what I did. I tried it out. And then I ended up with the Deluge. And I was surprised how quickly I was able to pick up the Deluge again, even though they've changed it a lot with firmware since in the last few years. They've been really good with constant firmware updates. And they've added a lot of functionality, which one of the other things I'm excited to see is how much audio tracks and how long they can be until I make it cry mercy, because it streams audio from your SD card, so you're not limited by RAM for audio tracks, but I assume you're limited by the bandwidth that you can pull off of an SD card.
Probably, yeah. It would also be the card reader itself. So there's different levels of cards and what their
read-write potential
bits per second, right?
Yeah, like it comes with a card that says 90 bits per second or megabytes per second or whatever, and I have one of those in there. But that was one of my concerns, is with the MPC Live, I kept bumping into that 8-track limitation. And I was like, well, I can work around that if I have to. But but now I may not have to. But I haven't gone beyond 3 yet, just with the projects that I've been doing on here. So I'll find out soon enough. You know, I got a lot more to learn with it, but I can work, you know, without having to look at my instructions too often now. So that's
good.
But it's a totally different experience because it's all muscle memory and learning the shift plus this plus that, shift plus this plus that, because the screen is like a 4-character 1982 LCD, like, you know, just 4 8s and whatever those crystals that make that up. So everything is physical controls that you have to learn, and you start to learn how they work, and so it's not too bad. And it ends up being really fast because there's no pressing the touchscreen and having it not select the note or whatever it is you're trying to do. You know, none of that happens anymore. So you can really get moving quick, and I like that. And like, for instance, that video that I put up on my channel last week, and I did a little Impurfekt jam with it, and it took me about an hour and a half to do that whole thing, and then I recorded it after. And when I did that, like, okay, I'm getting along with this thing.
This is made in New Zealand, correct?
Yes.
That's so NZ dollars. Cool.
Yeah, so that's the wrong nationality or region number there, so it's confusing. And they I think they might still be a delay on orders when you order. Mine was kind of back ordered for 2 or 3 months because they were shut down completely for about a month, and now they're back up and running, but they've got a backlog of orders they're catching up to.
I'm guessing the pictures are not they're not working. I was gonna show there we go. There's one.
Yeah, see, it's totally, yeah, that's the screen. You can see it's got the 8 characters.
Yeah, 8 segment display.
But like, for example, if I was sequencing an external synthesizer, I can set either one of those gold knobs. I can push on it and turn it, and I can set it to the whatever CC I want, and then I can automate CC that way, or I can assign CC per step.
Cool.
But it's pretty capable. It's just it's got its own way of doing things in a hardware fashion, and so, I've used a number of hardware sequencers, and none of them have been as quick to use as this thing is once you learn it.
My question would be, Aaron, let's say you've got a project loaded up in here. How fast is it to switch to a different project? Is it fast?
Probably as fast as you hit the buttons. I mean, it's really fast. If you watch the video that I did with it's like a 4-minute jam, I turn it on from being completely off. I turn it on, I load the project, and then I start the jam in the videos just because I wanted to show people how fast it is.
Do you have to turn it off each time, or can you switch in?
No, like you turn it on, and I don't know, maybe 2 seconds it's on. And every project that I've loaded, because it doesn't load any of the audio into RAM. All the audio is streaming off
from the
card.
SD card. Okay.
So all it's loading is like your MIDI files, I guess. You know, it's a very small XML file that it would load, and I think it has 2 gigs of RAM. But because initially it did load audio into RAM, so it was fairly limited as far as audio went. But they found a way to switch it so it streams from your card for all the audio, which just opened it wide open to. I mean, I can't even imagine what the limitations would be with 2 gigs of RAM, and all you're doing is using MIDI data to get to 2 gigs.
And it has a built-in synth engine, right? So maybe a little bit of that.
Yeah, and that actually sounds pretty good. I started exploring that last week.
Is it digital, or is it?
It is digital, but it sounds pretty good. Like, to me, it's similar to the MS-2000 territory as far as digital. It's kind of scratchy. Mm-hmm. It's just got that texture to it that I like. So I'm definitely going to be exploring this more. If you see that picture down there, the way to manipulate the synthesis engine is using the shift, and that grid has, I don't know, 40 different buttons to craft your sound. So it's takes some getting used to. It's not easy to do by any means.
But it's by no means DX7 complicated.
Yeah, no, because it's straightforward. It's VA. You can load samples in there too. Like you can do multi samples. Like say I've got sample kits, multi samples of pianos and strings and choirs that I made for the MPC, and I can load them right into this. You're just limited to 2 velocity layers instead of 4 velocity layers like the MPC.
Okay.
So, and these are features that did not exist in this thing when I had one back in 2017.
Yeah, they have, like you said, they have been pretty good at supporting the product and continuing to innovate with the software updates to expand the functionality and capabilities.
Yeah, I wouldn't have considered using this as my do everything box until I heard, oh, they can stream audio from the card now, and you can record audio tracks, and you can do multi samples. Holy cow! So it's pretty full featured as far as, you know, the closer to a DAW in a box without the disadvantages of literally putting a DAW in a box is how I kind of equate the experience.
Cool.
Cool, man.
But
the streaming for the SD card on the One, which by the way, the One cannot have a hard drive. Can the Deluge actually? Can you put a SSD in there?
No, all it has is the card slot. It can officially accept up to 64 gig, but I have a 128 that I had to hack to format it to FAT32 because it's just got to be a FAT32 format.
Oh, okay.
SD card. Right. I don't know what the speed limitation is, but I'm going to explore that. And I've been on the forums learning and discussing things, and I don't get the impression, at least of the forums, that they're using a lot of long audio tracks. So I'm kind of exploring that. We're going to see how deep and long I can get as far as the audio tracks.
But yeah, that's one of the last things that well, not the last things, but that's what the people have been bitching about on the MPC.
When they do that, the MPC is going to be killer. That's the only shortcoming that I saw with it was this, you know, because you're using so many samples and you can do so much with the MPC, you run out of RAM when you start having multi-sample instruments in there and long audio.
The question is, how long will it take a Kai to get their thumbs over the butts and make that a reality? So
yeah, I don't know enough about the architecture of the MPC to know why it's been so hard for them to implement streaming versus loading the audio into RAM and going from there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's from just having multiple ways of having. I mean, you can put an external drive into this via, I believe, the USB slot as an external drive. You can have an internal drive on the live version of this, and then of course the SD slot. So maybe having all those different access points can be a challenge for them to add.
I know loading projects was pretty slow on mine. You know, it felt like loading a project in a DAW on a laptop hard drive kind of speed. So that there could be something as far as the bandwidth between the storage and the audio engine limiting things.
So you could plug an external drive right into that USB port there. Yeah. It has an A and B connector.
I had a thumb drive in there for backup purposes when I had one. So I'm sure, assuming that it could power the external USB drive, I couldn't say if it could do that.
Well, you can always get a powered USB hub and then plug it in.
Yeah.
And it'd probably speed up even more if you used an SSD, external SSD.
Everything I did was with the with the SD card, which is the slot on the bottom. And I don't know if that was faster than if I saved stuff. Because I know if I saved to and from the thumb drive, it was slower than if I saved to or from the SD card.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I've only used an SD card on mine. I haven't even bothered using anything other than that. So.
I didn't save to and from the internal hard drive, actually. Because I every once in a while I'd want to, if I finish something, I could just pop one of those two cards out and put it on the computer and upload it.
Right. Yeah, it's all SSD. Or no, I'm sorry, SD.
Yeah.
I confused. It's all SD card for me. No USB stick, no USB extra.
I mean, what I don't know is if the internal hard drive is a disk. I assume it's a solid state, actually, because I could never hear it.
The one doesn't have an internal drive. It does not have a drive.
Well, I thought it had a 6 or 8 gig or something in yours, at least, like it's fixed storage in there, because it's got the whole library of sounds, right?
Oh, right. That's not a drive, though. I don't know what that is. Is it? I think maybe just another type of SD storage.
It might be effectively an SSD that's, welded to the circuit board or something.
That's a pretty lame ass SSD if it's only got that much storage. I would think it would be some other kind of storage, like some kind of memory. It's like SD type. I could be wrong. I don't know. I honestly don't know what they're using for their storage for the internal side of things.
Because the Live had a 10 gig, came with a 10 gig drive in there, and you could swap it out for a bigger drive, I think.
Was it really a 10 gig SSD is what they gave you? It's bizarre.
Well, and I don't know if you swapped it, if it just had an empty bay in addition to that, or if you swapped it, you'd actually be removing that and putting another one in. I never even opened up the bay. Huh. I can't remember.
Was that on the Live?
Yeah, the Live had a bay underneath.
Yeah, I remember seeing that for an actual hard drive, right?
Yeah, so you can get crazy. It's like the Live 2 seemed to upgrade the built-in storage to 16.
Right. Yeah, it does. Cause
that was the only component upgraded as far as CPU is the same, touchscreen's the same, RAM is the same.
No way, man! It's got that speaker bar.
And
the speaker bar.
Totally awesome speaker bar.
Totally. Everybody wants to hear you produce your.
Well, I love how the speaker bar is in the front of it. I mean, I guess it makes sense because if you're just twiddling away in your bedroom and you don't have, maybe this is the only thing you're using. At least you got a speaker
I use
bar.
Headphones.
Yeah,
see these? I plug these into it.
Yeah, but they start squishing on your brain and.
Your brain? Yeah, it causes brain damage. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's undue pressure on your temples.
But I was surprised though, because when I went to flip my Live, it sold in like 12 hours, and I only lost about $100 on it.
Well, that's good. That's good resale. So you
that was after the Live 2 came out.
You basically paid $100 to have an MPC Live for however long you owned it.
Yeah, like 3 months.
Yeah.
Because I think generally people may prefer the original. I mean, because that was after the whole Live 2 campaign, had been going for about 2 weeks, and the original Live still had good value, and it was real easy to sell. I may have been able to sell it for more, but I didn't feel like gouging anybody.
Synth scalper.
The only thing I have an issue with on these things, like the Live 2, and the OP1, is the internal battery. I don't know how easy it is to replace that on the MPC line, but I know the OP1, for instance, is a real pain in the ass.
If that battery dies, do you just have to send it back to them?
I think so.
Yeah, it's not.
Or there is a kit you can get and special instructions, but it takes a lot of work to dig it out.
It'd be like trying to take your iPhone apart to replace the battery in that. It's not a user replaceable component.
Yeah.
Which is going to limit that aspect of these, I think, obviously in the future.
Do you use your one in a portable manner, cow food?
No, I use it primarily in the studio, but there's no battery in it.
So yeah, as I say, I didn't think that one had a battery.
The main argument why people prefer the Live over the one is that was a big complaint. It didn't have the battery in it.
Right.
I forgot about that.
But you can power it with an external,
USB brick
battery. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Because I did use
Think I have one of those.
the live with the battery a couple times, and it was slower to start up. I know that much. But I don't know how other performance may be affected when it was on battery power. But I
I guess
assume
it
it's
just depends on
capable
how
because
much-
it's got the batteries, because some guys want to do a show outside at a pool or something.
No, you mean
And
you
they-
got to go into the forest.
Oh yeah.
You got to go into the forest with your MPC Live and like a wave state or something.
And some pixie dust.
It's pixie dust.
Take it
and-
on the bus.
Yeah,
The bus with your Jupiter.
You're gonna
And your
sleep
man
in
bun.
your hemp bag
And
with
your man
with
bun.
your man bun. Yeah,
While your Jupiter's warming up.
That's
your
right.
Jupiter XM has to warm up, guys, because you're out in the mountains.
Actually, if you set the live on the Jupiter XM, it'll warm up faster because the live got hot.
It would be a little toasty, huh?
It
That's
got pretty
that's
warm.
perfect.
There's threads of people worrying because it creaks. It gets so hot that it creaks when it cools off.
I bet you it doesn't creak like
wow.
the Moog 1 back here, man.
Does that do the same thing because it gets so warm?
You'll hear it going. Yeah, it'll make some pretty loud creaks and pops and stuff when it's cooling off.
Wow. That's
that makes
wild.
sense. I mean, that's a huge old, it's a huge analog synth. So it's kind of weird. Something like this would get that hot to where it would creak and moan when it cools off.
It's basically a laptop in a.
Yeah, basically.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Then there's rumors of the Behringer. I can't remember what they were saying it was called. The Behringer groove box thingy. You guys hear about that?
The Jam.
Was it the Jam? Let's see.
Jam.
Let's see if we can find it. Behringer Jam.
Saw it on the Facebook group, Pro Synth.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it other places. I don't know.
No, that's not what I wanted. Behringer Jam.
It's the MPC killer, I guess.
Here we go. This is on
Trying to make it.
Synth Anatomy, a great website. There it is.
The Jam.
That looks like a 707 mashed together with an MPC one. Oh,
That's-
we
Yeah.
we
that's it.
lost. Aaron's back. We-
Let me get in quicker that time.
I gotta add you back into the shot, and then we're gonna wrap up here in a second anyway. But let me add you back in.
So maybe I've been lucky that my laptop hasn't done this while I've done any of my live shows.
There you are. Now
Or
you're
maybe there's some.
back.
I don't know. I have yet to find a computer that gets along real well with Rendezvous.
Yeah, it's more. I think it's more. I don't know. I think it's. I don't know. Most of the time when I use it, it works okay. But also, I'm not. I don't try and push my luck and do these shows live with it.
Yeah, no, I've thought about I could do something similar for my channel because I have the camera and what am I using? OBS.
Yeah, OBS.
I might be able to do something similar with like Zoom and OBS or something like
Skype
that.
or something. The problem
But
I
would record that.
when I first started doing these shows, used to do them over Skype, have the guests come in on Skype. But then Microsoft updated Skype, and then Wirecast wouldn't recognize, or there's a virtual camera that it can send to Skype, or at least it used to work that way. And the new Skype doesn't recognize the virtual camera, and so I had to go to Rendezvous, which I didn't want to do anyways. But until I can get it to work with Skype again, or some other conferencing thing, that's kind of what we're using for now. But
Are we going to talk about the Behringer box?
yeah, the Jam. Pump it up. Pump up the Jam. I was saying it looks like a 707 mashed with a MPC-1.
I actually like the design of this.
Yeah, I think it looks cool. I think it's just a rendering.
The design looks great.
Mm-hmm. Kafu, what do you think? You gonna trade in your MPC-1 and
I
get a...
I think it's going to take a while. I mean, to put together a system that has, I just don't know how long it's going to. I think they're biting off an apple that they don't know just how difficult it might end up being for them.
Well, this might
think
end up
they're-
being vapor. What do they call it? Vaporware. That's software. But
Yeah.
what do they call it with hardware? Same thing.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't think the hardware is going to be too hard for them.
The software
Right.
for it's going to be the problem. Probably.
The software is where there's
Yeah.
a huge thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with Cow Food on this.
I
one.
would think. And I don't know if they have that kind of resource put together. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Well, with all the synths they've sold, maybe they can siphon off some of that dough and hire some software engineers to program up some.
Well, so
Quickly make an MPC clone.
yeah, exactly. Just spit one out.
based on their mixer segment, that gives me a little optimism that they could possibly pull something off.
You mean the wing? Is that?
The wing, and because I'm going to try out a X32 rack.
Well, I was just say just their XRs. Like I'm using an XR 18 right now to drive the show audio.
Is that a digital mixer?
It is digital mixer.
I mean,
there's no.
I've seen nothing but good reviews about the X32. It seems really robust, and it's in professional, churches and installations and schools, and it's a really popular model that seems pretty solid. So that suggests to me that they can do, solid firmware and software for something. But like Cow Food says, they don't have anything that does. They don't have a sequencer, like a complex DAW or sequencer of any kind that I'm aware of.
Right.
Right.
But they're going to have to build this from scratch.
Yep.
Well, maybe they can steal the code.
Well,
They've got
yeah,
ways.
that's what they might be able to get chunks somehow legally. I
Right.
don't know if they can clone Cubase and shove it in this thing.
Yeah, there you go. That's all they have to do.
Poach the code from.
But I could see it taking like 2 to 3 years before they have something that's ready for even a demo at a show.
Yeah.
That's what I think too.
You
30
never know,
years.
because maybe they've been working on this for a while. Who knows?
I don't know, because I'm still a little confused how the MPC was largely ignored in the synth community until recently. But I did go back and see that Jade Wee had done a number of videos with the MPC live when it initially came out.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think that's
I
kind
never
of.
thought, I didn't even know it existed really.
Yeah, I remember seeing it because I've been really interested in trying to build up a live synth rig. But
Yeah.
something more robust than just little session jams, like something that I can really push out some professional
And
sounding.
I think the Polyend that's going to do that for you.
Yeah, I'm hoping. So, but anyway, that's I think that whole segment, like because of the rise of the DAWless community within the synthesizer groups, right, being a thing, people really started paying attention to some of these groove boxes, and I think that's why you saw Roland respond with the 101 and the 707.
Okay.
And it makes sense that Behringer's going to want to try and
Oh yeah.
snatch some of that market up as well. If they do a good job, they can totally do it. So there's gripes on all these. With the Akai stuff, the thing I always hear about those is they put out the device, and then but it doesn't. It's not fully baked, if that makes sense. It requires more firmware updates that seem to take forever. And it really irritates the community when they have to wait like a year or two for full functionality of their equipment that they are trying to basically use as the centerpiece to drive their whole session or whatever. So if they do it, I just it would really be nice to buy something and not have it needing to be waiting on updates.
Yeah, that was a big issue with the live. People that had it in 2017 got a totally different impression than people who bought a live or a one in 2019.
Yeah.
It was ready for prime time in 2019 by the time the one came out. I feel like, and maybe that's why they did such a big push and why the push seemed more successful, because it was ready. It was much more fully baked. And the one is just a great little format, easier to control, and it's been pretty well received. And the software has come so far since 2017 too.
Yeah.
Seems like
I would agree.
such a long time ago. Well, guys, I think we're going to have to cut it off here. But, guys, thank you very much for joining me. Aaron, appreciate you being here, sir.
Thanks for having me, Marshall.
I'll put some links down below. You guys can check out Impurfekt on YouTube, and be sure to watch the Synth Hour. When is that on again?
First and third Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific.
Wonderful. And also check out the subreddit Filter Sweep, which are you still working on that?
Yep, I'm still the mod there, and we're still ticking away. We're closing in on 2,100 users on there. So.
Oh, nice. Very good. All right. Also, Cow Food.
Nice.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
You need to get on YouTube, bro. We got all that flashy, blinky lights. I want to see some demos, bro.
I know. It's coming. and the SoundCloud as well.
SoundCloud. Yeah. Are you putting stuff up on there again, or?
I did. I thought I put something out there, but not as much as I need to. I'm going to be putting a bunch of stuff.
Cool. Well, I'll put a link in the description there for Mr. Cowfood's SoundCloud as well. So be sure to check that out, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be sure to like the video.